Right. So yeah, what I was saying. Russian, Western, metaphysical. Right.
Yeah, you got that.
What I was saying. I moved to England when I was 6, 7, and then like in a year's time, I fluently spoke English, but because my father didn't speak with me in Russian, he would speak with me in English because he thought that would be better for me to learn the language quicker.
So he was.
I forgot Russian. Yeah, I forgot Russian.
So your dad
when I
sort
was
of intended
10,
on you being English, really, or being more. Not like
What?
your dad sort of not that he intended you to be English, but he sort of had more of an intent for you to grow up in the Western English speaking world, huh?
To be honest, well, that's how I logically comprehend it, but I just think my father wasn't really competent in terms of raising a child.
Yes,
and
I understand. I get that.
yeah, like, and I mean, it's not that bad. Like, a lot of people's fathers and mothers aren't really, like, it could be worse. But nevertheless, back to the story. Yeah,
Yes,
so then I went back when I was 10 to Russia, and I started learning the language anew.
Okay, so you had sort of a very basic understanding of it as a child, but you forgot. But I would imagine still subconsciously you'd have the structures of the language.
I don't know, man. Because I didn't remember it at all.
I know, when you started to learn it again, well, how easily did it come to you? Did it come to you completely as a foreign language, or did it come to you as a... Did it make logical sense?
It came to me as a foreign language.
Did it make logical sense? Because I'm learning German at the moment, and I'm looking at a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff makes sense, and a lot of logically, but a lot of stuff doesn't, and that's obviously because English is my first language. So I would look at certain things, and I suppose it would be easier to see in Romance languages, where you would put like an adjective after an object. So in English you would say the red bird, but in French you would say the bird red, and that doesn't make logical sense to me, so that makes it a little bit harder to learn the language. And so that's what I was just wondering, if when you went back into learning Russian, did the structure of the philology make sense to you logically, or did you have to recondition your brain to get it all?
I had to recondition my brain. Yes, it didn't make sense to me.
Damn.
Well, to a certain extent, I think it did. I mean, it was a long time ago. It's hard for me to remember how I felt, because I was just like, I was moving from place to place. I was like, what the fuck's going on? To be honest,
trying to learn new languages and everything.
Yeah, I was like, I remember when my dad said that he wants me to go to Russia. I was like, no, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I want to stay here. Like, I'm fed up with it. But he's like, no, you're going to Russia.
So what was Russia to you as a sort of 10-year-old kid moving?
10-year-old. Well, I mean, as a 10-year-old kid, I was naive and I don't know. It's hard to say. Russia is
Russia is Russia.
Yeah, it's quite a special place, you know, in the world. It's to one extent, I got pretty good education compared to what I would get in England if I would stay there.
Oh, so you'd say the Russian education system is better?
No, I'm not talking about the education system. Okay. I'm talking about the people.
This is really the core of what we're going to be talking about today as well.
Because school education isn't exactly... Well, I don't consider it proper education.
It's indoctrination.
Do I have to explain why, or do you...
Well, go on, explain your view behind it.
Well, my view behind it goes... Well, it's based on two main factors. The way that in school you're taught history and language and literature.
Okay.
In history we're taught only the political and economical side of things that are going around. We don't know anything about what the people think, what the people feel,
yes.
how they shit, how they piss, how they get water, what food they eat. We don't know anything about that, but we know how they kill each other,
yes,
and how they urge to gain history after school.
And
Literature. Every country, every Western European country, probably in America is the same, is secluded in a program where you read only literature of your country or your language. Sometimes it's like I mean, you get like we would read Shakespeare a bit. We would read Hamlet and Romeo and Juliet. We read Jack London. But it wasn't in the program. So world literature, world culture is ignored in the program, and I assume it's the same in England. Like in England, you don't read a lot of French writers or Russian writers in the school program, or even American for that matter.
Well, we get Marx.
Maybe a few American, but
yeah, we get Karl Marx, but that's about it.
You read Karl Marx in school.
They give us Karl Marx as part of what they would consider to be world literature, because we have sort of what we have Western literature, and then we have world literature, and then you have like ideas that change the world, so to speak. And so you would have a very rough introduction to like Kafka. I can't say Hesse. I don't think we would even get anywhere near that.
Hesse is not. It's never going to be school material. It's too spiritual.
For real. No, so we would get a little bit of Kafka. We're very heavy on Shakespeare and Dickens.
I don't think school kids need to read Kafka. He's not. He's the type of writer that you should like get to know.
You can't, if you read
between
it without
1820,
understanding
you
the
get
person.
that existential crisis going on.
Precisely, yeah. Well, I have to say this is in sort of secondary school literature, but then we would the sort of the American literature we would read would be like Steinbeck and stuff like that. A lot of John Steinbeck, so of Mice and Men.
Would you read Dreiser or Vonnegut?
No. Our European, really, that was what they considered to be world literature, was specifically European literature. We would never touch on Indian literature, we would never touch on Sub-Asian literature.
What about
French? Our French, I would say, would be very, very limited. So, for example, in philosophy, we'd touch on Descartes, and we'd touch on... thinking back, I think Descartes is the only French author we touched on. And that was only, I think, therefore I am. That was it. That was literally it. We didn't even read the, can't remember what the book was called now. Basic metaphysics or whatever it was called. But yeah, that was first essays on metaphysics, I think it was, or something like that. But we only touched on the concept of I think, therefore I am. And I don't think Descartes was even presented to us as being a French author. I think he was just presented to us as being sort of a Western thinker.
Yeah,
that was the way it was presented. But nowhere did we touch on Dostoevsky, on Hesse, I'm losing my authors now. Solzhenitsyn, of course. Why would we will get Marx, but we won't get Solzhenitsyn.
What about Chekhov?
No Chekhov at all. No. Extremely limited, and the really what they focused on was specifically pseudo-archetypal writings of English authors. That was what we really got, and a lot more of it was modern. So a lot more of it was we read Harry Potter in one of my classes. Like, well, why the fuck are we reading? Like, I completely understand, like volume.
What year was it?
That would have been I would have been 14 going on 15, so that would have been year 9, I think.
I mean, you can read Harry Potter when you're like in year 5, year 6.
Exactly.
I mean, nothing bad. It's I mean, I think it's fun. I haven't read. I mean, I read it when I was young, very young, when I was in England. But I wasn't really into reading at that time, so I couldn't really fully rate Harry Potter as a book. So but I guess since I'm not that young anymore, there's really no point in reading it, and I don't like the movies, to be honest. But I guess that a lot of people like it. It's probably good for youngers.
It's very interesting, and this is where the Jungian psychology comes into it, because the archetypes of Harry Potter are the Jungian archetypes. You have the hero. I mean, this is it in I can't remember which one it's called, but it's the second one where Harry Potter has to fight the basilisk, and he has to go down into the depths of the underworld of the school and defeat the serpent to save the virgin, and before he can return, he has to have the phoenix come and cry on his wounds and be reborn before he can return. And that's St. George and the Dragon. That's what that story is. It's just the retelling of that story with different characters. So it's the same archetypes.
Pretty much.
It's the same archetypes, and that's why it sort of draws the crowd.
It's quite amazing how it is in the arts, how the representation of the archetypes, they constantly they get slightly renewed, but it's all the same thing.
I know, and that is absolutely fascinating to me. I almost can't wrap my head around it.
I believe Rowling has studied literature thoroughly to develop those archetypes, because that's what I mean. In every more or less good philological university, or even if you're self-educating yourself, when you come across folklore, you straight away like even psychologists, like I listen lectures on Russian folklore, and the lectures that I listen, well, they're recorded on video, and it's students that study psychology. So they're taught they're taught folklore because in the folk there are specific archetypes.
Yes.
So and it goes for all nations, I guess, for all countries. They have their own folk. And then it goes to literature. Like, do you know that the what's it called? John Milton's poem. What's it called? I forgot.
Paradise Lost.
Yeah, Paradise
Yes,
Lost.
yeah.
Well, his Lucifer,
He
the
perfected
image,
it. He perfected it.
the image of Lucifer, like before his poem, like nobody even thought of him that way. But now, everybody, if you tell anybody Lucifer, they'll straight away imagine like a demon that was something similar to Satan that was sent away from heaven because he rebelled.
Yeah, some evil form of.
Yeah.
Well, but it's ultimately a representation of the human intellect.
The human what?
The human intellect, the mind, and it's the arrogance of the mind in comparison to the chaos that is our existence, which would be God the Father, if you wanted to look at it like that in a religious sense.
Yeah.
And it's almost the tale of how humans they get so close to understanding the true nature of reality, but then their own arrogance, the Lucifer, their own arrogance causes them to fall down. And it's I don't know, it's when you look at it through that light, and you even look at religion through that light, you sort of go, shit. Like, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, you're
now.
absolutely right.
Like the serpent and the apple and all these things, they make sense now. And the women, it's very, very, very strange when you start to look at the archetypes and you start to realize that things like Harry Potter, the reason that J.K. Rowling can fill
because when you're a kid,
theater,
you're just consuming it and you don't even think about it.
Mm-hmm,
because you're sort of you're young, you don't think of things like that.
Yeah, you're just on your own autopilot, really.
yeah, pretty much. And you're kind of forced, like, you're culturally conditioned to be on autopilot until like there's a specific point in your life where you kind of well, for me it was when I read Master and Margarita when I was 11, I think.
Yeah,
and I was well, 2 weeks after that I didn't think of anything else other than that novel.
So that was really
I was just walking around and I was like, what the fuck?
Oh, dude.
And,
and
after that I was like,
it's those types of reality-shattering experiences that be it reading a novel or accidentally smoking DMT when you're really young.
Yeah.
Those things that really cause you to take a step back and realize, hold the fuck on, like, metaphysical crisis begin. But I think that it's this sort of concept that the fact that these archetypes present themselves in every single culture, and they present themselves differently, they present themselves uniquely, they present themselves with unique interpretations and unique...
with unique aesthetics?
Yes, precisely, with unique aesthetics. But yet they're the same thing right at the core. Be that the tale of the defeating yourself and having to die and renew your culture as the father, or whatever it is. It's I don't know, it speaks to something. And this is the concept of Professor Jordan Peterson, which is why I linked you to him, and why I find him so interesting. Is he's a Darwinian thinker, and he thinks about reality as being sort of two things. As you have the Newtonian reality, which is the sort of physical reality outside of the human body, and then you have the Darwinian reality, and that is the reality that our body's adapted for. So our mind is an organ. Our mind adapted. Well, our brain is an organ which adapted to interpret sensory factors for our survival. And for some reason, we draw meaning from those. And the fact that we feel that meaning, or whatever the emotion that we feel is, makes that real. So in a Darwinian sense, like, religion is real, but in a Newtonian sense it isn't, and that's a fascinating concept. And to think that someone who is practicing Hinduism and someone who is practicing let's say someone's practicing literalist Hinduism and someone's practicing literalist Christianity, they're in essence what the fundamental backbone of what they're doing is exactly the same. But the cultural aesthetic they've built around it is so different that they will kill each other over it. It's fascinating. It's fascinating stuff, man.
Well, Christians do, but Hinduists and Buddhists don't really kill each other that much usually,
okay, well,
unless they
Hindus and
really,
kill each other quite a lot,
start
I have to say.
profanating like everything in their religion. So like.
Yeah,
nothing is left of it,
that was
which
what
is
was
true.
so fascinating to me about the sort of the Vedic culture in its entirety is the fact that it never saw itself as a religion. Very much like you could almost argue that Islam doesn't see itself as a religion. You know, Islam is a political ideology, it's a social construct, it's a religious philosophy, it's an all-encompassing worldview. And Vedic culture was very like, if you read the Rig Veda, there's sections on how to build a house and how to cook properly. And it's like, well, how is that part of religion? It's not. It's about behavior. It's about how should you structure your behavior so that you can
It's about
not
health,
only be happy.
ethics, spiritual and physical health. It's about everything in this world. It's about the laws of the universe, like, and it's on a really deep level.
It is.
Like, when I first read Bhagavad Gita, I was like, holy shit, this literature existed, like,
nearly
3,000 years before.
Yeah, it was first,
BC.
I think it was first written 5,000 years ago, and it's presumed to have...
No, it was first written, I believe, 800 BC.
Was it first written 800? I thought it was first written 2000.
No, but it was
BC.
You had the tradition of telling it ear to ear.
Yes, this is what I mean, and that tradition I know goes back at least
that
10,000
goes back
years.
Centuries and millennia.
But I'm pretty sure that the first written one was at least 5,000 years ago. And by written I mean carved on walls and things like this. And I'm sure there's some temple somewhere where it's carved. We have an open Google page. Let's find the shit.
Yeah. That's what I'm doing now.
First.
5th or 4th century BC.
4th or 5th century BC.
Yeah. Nevertheless.
No, I'm happy for that. I'm sure I heard of it being, yeah. Anyway,
nevertheless,
continue.
The fact that they knew such a deep, sacral they understood such deep and sacred wisdom
Yes.
of how the world works and how these laws never change is astonishing.
And so long ago, and I know this
so long ago,
it's
ago, and Europe was ignorant to it for so long.
But was it? This
still is.
Right now it is. Right now it very much is. But 300 years ago, was it? 500 years ago, was it? it's very interesting.
Well, I know that Schopenhauer, he had the Upanishads in his personal library, and he very much liked the Vedic literature.
Yeah. Well, a lot of what the sort of the New Age movement was spawned from the Vedic literature.
Oh yeah,
but
like the New Age, I don't like the New Age movement. Yeah. I mean, on one hand, it interpreted the Vedic philosophy and literature and all of the Eastern philosophies in a way that the European, the stupid white man mentality could understand.
Yeah, the straight white capitalist.
Yeah, the closed-minded rationalist viewpoint.
And that was very much the purpose of theosophy, was to try and explain these things in a
logical and rational
So
on one hand, that was I understand why it had to profanate certain ideas, but on the other, that profanation, it wasn't like it made it created certain stereotypes around archetypal stereotypes around these philosophies around so for example, if you tell someone you're a Buddhist, like in Europe, they would look at you in a weird way, like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Or like, what are you, some saint? Or I don't know. Like, I don't usually like come up to people and say I'm a Buddhist, but like you get the idea. If you talk to someone about yoga, they think it's like going to the gym and
stretching your body and rolling around
just stretching your body. Like, they think it's just some physical practice for your body, and that's it. That's all they know about yoga, and that's because of the New Age.
Yeah, very much so. But again, it's the New Age trying to bring these ideas to the hyper-rational mind. And I was watching a talk, maybe I think it was probably last night, by Sadhguru. Have I linked you to Sadhguru yet?
No.
So he's an Indian sort of yogi mystic guy. He's alive now. He does a lot of talks now, and he used to be a businessman. That's why he's so interesting to me. Was that he was a capitalist, he was a businessman, but from a primary point of sort of free market capitalism, which is based in freedom. So it was this sort of concept of as long as I'm not hurting other people, I'm free to conduct my business however I choose to. And I have the power to do that. And then at the age of I think he was 20 when he had his experience, he was just sat on a rubbish heap and he just became one with everything. And he just understood, and he was like, okay, I get it. So now he's just going around giving talks and explaining things to people. He has his own sort of yoga discipline called Aisha Yoga. And I'll pull that up on the screen now.
Aisha Yoga.
Yeah, and so the Aisha Yoga Foundation. And so I was watching a talk with him, and he was having a talk with a neurobiologist the other day. And they were talking about these the aspects of the human mind and the billions of connections within it. And Sadhguru sort of goes, well, ultimately in Vedic thought and in yogic thought, there are only 4 aspects to the mind. But we say that if you begin to study those 4 aspects of the mind, they will turn into billions, and you will never be able to truly study them because there will just be too many. And so he's like, there you have your identity, you have your intelligence. These are really rough translations, and they don't do justice to what the actual Hindi words mean. But you sort of have your intelligence.
Hindi or Sanskrit?
It's Sanskrit, but now it's Hindi would be the sort of the closest to that. But yeah, so what the Sanskrit words would mean, and I'll pull that up now anyway. And yeah, yogic concept of the mind. So yeah, so there's basically 4 aspects. There's your your intelligence, your field of consciousness, your identity, and then the intelligence within you that creates your body. And so that's sort of, if you take this very weird concept, if you take like a neuron, how insanely like complex a neuron is, well, your body has the ability to make a neuron from a piece of bread. If you eat a piece of bread, your body is going to take that apart and put it together to form a neuron. That's intelligence. That's the type of intelligence that's within your body.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's like, and now you can then try and study that intelligence further and further and further and further and further, but it's just going to become more and more complex. And it doesn't need to be. You can have a very broad, rudimental understanding of it, and that will allow you to function in happiness. Yeah, go, talk.
That's very true. What the way I see it in traditional European science, the more we study, the more we analyze the way that the world works from the materialistic side.
Yeah, let's call that Newtonian for all intents and purposes.
Newtonian, and like quantum particles and all that, all that stuff. It'll just be more and more new things. We'll get to the point where it becomes just too complicated.
Well, we've already reached that point. We've reached that point 20
years
ago.
We're gonna. Well, yeah, we pretty much reached that point, but it's gonna. I'm just waiting for it to blow up.
Oh,
at a certain point.
I think it's at that point now, and I think especially with everything that's going on in the world, with all the geopolitics and everything that's happening, with the insane sort of revitalization of individualist thought and nationalist thought and movements towards specific identities. I think we're kind of in that phase, but I think we're not ready for it, and I think it could go very, very dangerously. But anyway, I've pulled up now just on the screen the 4 aspects of the Hindu mind, and after this we're going to start talking about geopolitics. So don't worry, this is gonna get interesting. So the 4th, I don't know if you're watching the stream or not, but so the 4.
I just turned it on.
Okay, cool. So the 4 functions of the mind are the manas, so this is the sensory or the processing mind. So this is sort of your sort of the reptilian aspect of your brain. So this is your physical sort of interactions, and all of that is essentially the absorption of waves. So when you touch something physical, you're absorbing the vibration of that physicality, and it's coming into your body. And your body is interpreting the frequency of. I don't want to. This sounds way too new agey. So every physical thing is made of atoms. Every atom has a frequency at which it moves. It contains energy, therefore it is moving. When you touch that with your skin, you create a feeling of physical touch. If you touch it with your tongue, you will create a feeling of taste. If you touch that with your eardrums, it becomes a sensation of sound. And if you touch that with your eyes, or specifically you touch the photonic aspect of that with your eyes, it becomes sight. So all of that is really just touch, but it's different specialized forms of touch. So the manas aspect of the mind is the sensory processing aspect of the mind. Then you have the chitta, and this is the storage of impressions. So we could call that memory, if you want, but it would also be a sort of subconscious memory. So in yogic thought, you don't really draw a distinction between conscious memory and subconscious memory. It would be the same thing. Then you have the amakara, which would be the id, would be the sort of the id of the ego, or that's not really the best way of describing it, because within yogic philosophy it would be your specific individual manifestation of I. Because you see how your experience is the experience of I. You experience I am me, and I experience I am me. And anyone else who is listening to it is going to experience being them, not being someone else. And so that's what the amakara is really. It's the process by which consciousness is turned into the individual that it is being expressed as. And then the last one is buddhi, and that is sort of your intelligence, your ability to judge, your ability to discriminate, and your ability to have knowledge. So they would say those are the 4 functioning aspects of the mind. Now, in Western thought, we probably have 100 odd aspects of the mind, for whether that's a subconscious thought or a conscious thought, whether it's a decision that is predicated upon your own understanding, or whether that's a decision predicated upon influence from external factors. We define things down to a point where they are so complex that we struggle to understand them. Whereas all of that could be contained in the 4 functional aspects of the mind. And they also only have 4 elements, which I love. And you hear this sort of earth, fire, air, and ether. Really, would be space. Ether would be a better description than space. And we look at that as our sort of analytic Western minds, and we're like, oh yeah, look at these so simplistic people that thought that everything was only contained in these 4 things, when really we know there's 120 different elements in there and polypeptide bonds that are forming between them. But when Sadhguru was explaining this the other day, which I love the way he explained it, he was like, what are you talking about? Everything is made of those 4 elements. Does every atom not have matter in it? Matter is earth. You can remember, these translations are translations that we have taken from them. What the word for earth means physicality. So one element of existence is physical, is the raw physical space. The second element is, we could say, the element of air, and that would be the element of the ability to exist within. That we would ratify that as a dimension of space. But it's difficult. It's difficult because the word isn't a direct translation to either space or air. So it's a very difficult one to do. But the idea is, if you take your concept of an atom, right, the nucleus of the atom would be earth. It would be matter. Then you have a huge amount of space around that matter, which we could call air. And then you have a certain amount of energy that forms your electron shell around that. And that electron shell would be fire, right? Because that's temperature, that's heat energy. Because all energy in essence has a temperature to it. And so that is then fire. And then the final element is ether, is the ever-pervading force that keeps everything together. And that is sort of the energetic substrate of the universe.
The Higgs boson.
Yeah, the Higgs field, you could call it that, yeah. I prefer to, I just call it ether, because we have, that's quantum superfluid, it's the Higgs field, it's Einstein's idiotic concept of the fact that space and time can act upon things and somehow have a physical reality to them, which, what the fuck are you talking about? How does space have, space is a posterior attribute. Something has space, space does not have things. It's like saying that being in a shadow acts upon you. Like a shadow can act upon you. A shadow isn't acting upon you. The absence of heat is acting upon you, or the absence of light is acting upon you, in the case of a shadow. You know, if you walk into the shadow of a tree, into the shade of a tree, you're cold. You become cold, right?
Yeah.
But that's not the shade acting upon you to make you cold. It's the absence of the sun acting upon you that is making you cold.
Yeah, yeah.
So the sort of Einsteinian concept that space and time have physicality to them is, I find that to be very silly. But hey, I'm not a Nobel Prize winning physicist, so I'm not really in a position to be arguing with Einstein. But I think ether is just the easiest way of describing that, because it's the same thing. It means the same thing. We just can't have ether in our model of physics. We're not allowed to have it. So we have to come up with other words to describe it.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I think just that description of the 4 elements, and to say, well, if you think about it in that manner, everything in the universe is made of 4 elements. And boom, your mind has now been fucked, sir. But boy, anyway, so let's talk a little bit about the glass
geopolitics.
Bead game. No, let's do the glass bead game before we do geopolitics. Because I think the glass bead game will lead into geopolitics quite nicely. So I'm going to let you take the floor on this one, seeing as you actually have read it, and I've only skimmed through.
Right. Well, the glass bead game, what I find interesting about that book is it was written in 1943, and if you follow the European tradition of literature, doesn't matter, American, French, English, all of it was going much more spiritual. So if you look at Aldous Huxley, he was he was getting into all the psychedelics, like with his Doors of Perception. Yeah. Then you have the Beat generation with Burroughs and Kerouac and all of them guys. It was a much more spiritual time, and to me, yeah, and the Glass Beat game. So you read basically how the plot, how the novel is structured.
Yeah, I know how the novel is. It's about Joseph. Just my breakdown of what I understand. Yes, which means knight in German. So his name is Joseph Knight. So Joseph connects. As far as I understand it, it's the first sort of part of it is his autobiography, and then the last part is sort of the cosmology of the Glass Beat game. And as I understand
not exactly.
Well, okay, so like I said, I haven't read the whole book, so I do know. As I understand it, it's sort of the first part is sort of just sort of the stories of his life and how he becomes to be at the place. What's the place called? Castalia, right? So as how he comes to be at Castalia, and I understand Castalia to be sort of almost like a monastery university slash ultimate utopia, but only people who have proven their ability to sort of hold that level of knowledge. I don't want to say with morality, but can be that's a very difficult way to describe it, but it's sort of where the intellectual elite gather to share their ideas, and you have your sort of master of mathematics, master of art, master of whatever, and then you have the Magister Ludi, the Magister Ludi, who is the master of the game, and he's sort of at the head of everything, and Joseph Connect ends up becoming him, so Joseph Connect ends up becoming him, and it's sort of the spiritual journey of Joseph Connect from being a normal person to becoming the Magister Ludi, who is the sort of amalgamation. He is, as I see it, he's kind of, but again I haven't read the book, but as I see it, he's kind of like a Nietzschean Superman. He's like an Übermensch. The Ludi, the Magister Ludi is like an Übermensch. He's sort of the perfect human being, and he's sort of an amalgamation of all the different masters of the arts, and it's sort of talking about the connection between how mathematics is connected to music, how music is connected to the psychology, how the psyche is connected back to mathematics, and the Magister Ludi is the one who is able to explain life to you in that manner. Yeah, that's my understanding. So go on, take it away.
Well, that's your understanding because you haven't read the book and you have really high expectations of it.
Perhaps
that's how I say. That's what I'll say to you straight off the bat, because it's not. Unfortunately, or I don't know, maybe. But yeah, unfortunately, it's not like that, and he doesn't show it, at least in the novel, that he has a very deep understanding of the fundamental stuff in mathematics and music and everything. But the Glass Beat game, it is, the game is an amalgamation of all the arts and religions and music and maths, and it's but throughout the novel, like it's constantly repeated that it is that amalgamation, but you still have no idea how that game works, which is quite interesting.
Explain the game to you,
Then Castalia, yes. What I find interesting is that the elite university, it's mostly based on the humanities. It doesn't have that much. Well, from what I've read, there was maths, but like most of it, it's arts and humanities. Mm-hmm. So basically, it's how the story is represented is that humans have reached a point where they've got into a feuilleton era. Which is basically the era where the bourgeois mentality started dominating, and then people decided to make an elite university to keep so there would be a place where the knowledge of mankind, of the ideas, and would be So there would be a tradition of that knowledge that would be from teacher to student, and it would go on, and it would be all utopian and elite, and it comes to the point where such a place, it doesn't have any practical value to the world outside of it. So that people that study there, they stay in that system, and they teach new people that would stay in that system, and they're prohibited to do their own, to write poetry or do any form of art on their own.
Okay. So it becomes almost sort of like a totalitarian space. It becomes sort of like
it's not exactly. No, it's not totalitarian. I mean, no, there are people that have left. I mean, there was this in Yuri. He's a character that conflicts with Joseph Knecht. Well, Joseph Knecht, he becomes an apologete of the values of Castalia, while the Signori, he comes from a more middle class background.
So he comes from a background that's not too familiar with it.
Yeah, he not too familiar with it, and he has decided, like, at that point of time, when he's studying in Castalia, that he wants to go back to the world and study there in university.
In a normal university.
Sorry?
In a normal university, in a sort of what could be considered a normal university in comparison to Castalia.
Yeah, in a university, and then like get a job and whatever else he wants to do. And why was I saying that?
You were talking about how Castalia is not totalitarian.
Yes, it's not totalitarian. In that manner.
Kinda.
It's just because it's totally not totalitarian in any way or form. It's just it's very strict in terms of how it educates its students. And it's very conservative, very secluded from the world and from different types of education, and therefore, what I find interesting about
sort of
that,
describe it as conservative isolationist.
It's sort of conservative isolation. But what I find interesting about that, what I see in that is the allegory of what happened to art in the 20th century, in the first part of the 20th century. It went so far that average people, like, they have no way of, like, high art, not mass production art. They have no way of comprehending it. They have no way. It's in terms of the spirituality and the language and everything. Like, if you look up Joyce or Nabokov or Marcel Proust, like the level of the language and intertext that's in the literature, it's mind blowing. And an average person, like, who reads, I don't know, throughout his life, maybe 30-40 books, he'll never have a chance to actually fully understand such literature, such art. And if you look at modern art, if you look at Russian avant-garde, or it's the same story. Like the bridge is broken, basically, and I think that's the most important message in the novel. Not only the bridge has broken, but the value of art as well has broken. So people don't nowadays. Before, the philological discipline. Well, when Nietzsche was studying philology, it was the most prestigious faculty. In Germany, and the same goes for France, for England, for Russia. It was prestigious to know languages and the history and the culture. It was not only prestigious, but it was valued, and people valued it, and they treasured it, and they loved it.
They did.
Nowadays, we have the devaluation or devaluation. I don't know. In Russian, it's devalvaция.
Which would be the reverse evolution, the devolution.
The devolution of the value of words in general.
Yeah, this is something that has been I've noticed quite heavily recently as well. Just having conversations with people, especially political conversations, is that people have lost their sense of nuance. You know, the fact that a word can have several meanings to it, and that depending on the context within which you're using, that word can display several different contexts of meaning. And
especially in English.
English is an insane language. English is just like, what? We don't have a word for this? Well, we're taking yours.
Yeah, pretty much.
Crazy. But it allowed it to develop into being one of... again, English is my first language, but I think English is probably one of the best languages to ever have existed on the face of the earth. Just purely because it's simple.
America is the best country in the world.
America, fuck you. Best country ever exist, ever. But no, I do think English, just for its ability to adapt and its ability to be quite easily learned, its removal of the concept of gendered objects and stuff like that. A lot of people, when they go into romance languages, and they sort of go, how can a chair be female? I don't understand that. But this loss of nuance is very disturbing to me, because it pulls culture apart, and it high culture especially, because it's ultimately about describing the abstract. We've created these tools of language to be able to move abstract concepts from one mind to another, but that only works if me and you have agreed upon the levels of nuance that language can have. So if I can say the word spiritual to you, and you can, so I can describe something as spiritual, and you can take from that a higher understanding, because me and you have had enough conversations to know what we mean by that word. But then I was to then talk to someone who was sort of a hardcore materialist, a hardcore Newtonian, and I was to use the word spiritual, even they would look at me and be like, well, what are you talking about? There's nothing spiritual about this. It's a crazy word. You're an idiot. You're an uneducated person because you would even consider to use that word. And they're like, what do you mean? Like, reading a book is spiritual. That is a spiritual endeavor. That all experience is in essence spiritual. But that's just one example of one word. But I'm gonna ask you a question now, and I'm gonna see your response to it. What part do you think mass migration and multiculturalism has played in the devolution of language and of higher conceptual thought?
Mass migration and
what do you say? And sort of multiculturalism.
And multiculturalism.
The existence of multiple languages. Of saying that saying that, for example, you can have let's take like
I'll put it this way: when I speak to average people who don't read, who don't do any of what we have talked about for the last 15 minutes. I'm forced to lower down, like the grade, the
level of language.
Yeah. I'm forced to speak on a lower level, because otherwise they won't comprehend. So there's that factor in multiculturalism.
I would say that it does. I would say that is two different cultures. That is a culture of intellectualism and a culture of I don't want to call it non-intellectualism, but a culture. They are different cultures in their own essence. But
it's different, but technically, like, if a different culture comes into another country and it starts speaking the language of that country, it becomes of a lower intellect, because that culture, it doesn't have the language experience, it doesn't have the literary experience to form a coherent and eloquent vocabulary.
And because of that, it can people who are parts of that culture can end up drawing incorrect meanings, incorrect abstractions from the
That's
things
how you have in English that Jamaican slang, for example.
Yes. And again, if an upper class English person was to try and talk to someone who's speaking like Jamaican patois, or even just what we would consider to be now sort of British lower class, yeah, bruv, what is you talking about? Or, like, but I'm saying like, that's not Jamaican patois really, but it's sort of a hybrid of Cockney and patois and just broken English in itself. You're not going to be able to draw the correct abstractions from that, because if someone's using really flowery, eloquent language to try and get a concept across to you, and that concept is one of, I'm trying to think of a good example here, because what I'm seeing at the moment is people are talking about people who I would consider to be. I even hate using the sort of word intellectual as a discriminatory word, but that's the best one that I have, so let's use that. When I see people who are intellectual trying to sort of bring about this new spark of individualism, and they say so they begin to talk about concepts of individual rights as opposed to collective rights, people being treated on an individual basis as opposed to a collective basis. What a lot of people who are not in that sphere would abstract from that is racism or some type of bigotry against a group of individuals, when it's not meant in that manner. And that then causes rifts within the society, and that then causes the intellectuals to lower their level of speech down to one that is applicable and is understandable, and that lowers the whole sort of
it lowers the whole level, because the only people that knew how to speak in that way, they're starting to lowering down, and they're not using those words and that vocabulary and that syntaxis.
Yes.
And it becomes in Russian we have a word, it's called metastase. I believe in English you have something of equivalent because it's of Latin nature. Metastasis.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So it turns into a metastasis, and it's like a disease.
And but I'm gonna give you a quote from Metastasis. A quote from Milton Friedman, the economist. He said that we spend so much time focusing on empowering the people at the bottom of society that we forget that society has never been raised up from the bottom. It has always been dragged up from the top. And that is a very harsh thing for some people to hear, and they don't like that. And when the intellectuals, the people who are dragging society up from the top, find themselves to be in a minority, and Marxism creates an environment where they are despised for being intellectuals, then the entire culture then goes into a stasis and begins its decline. And you have a loss of a sense of unity, of a sense of purpose, and a sort of bousting onto people of the concept that all human beings are in essence equal, and if they were given the exact same circumstances and lived the exact same lives, they would turn out identical, which is just not fucking true. But no, so this is what I see as being the biggest issue that we have facing the not just Britain, not just America, not just, because I imagine that Russia is having much of the same sort of problem going on now, but it's very much a Western phenomenon, and it's gonna go. I see it as going one of two. Well, I can only make the prediction that Nietzsche made after he said God is dead. And he said God is... It was Nietzsche that said God is dead, wasn't it? Yeah, I've just had it in my head like, oh fuck, was that actually Nietzsche? Yeah. So the full quote, if I remember it correctly, is God is dead, and it is we who have killed him, and in the hundreds of years coming forward we will never be able to clean away the blood. Or something along those lines. And what he then went on to do was effectively make a prediction that because we had thrown away religion, we were going to adopt less complete ideologies, and that was going to result in mass death of human beings. And lo and behold, what did we have? We had communism and Nazism, and 300 million human beings died. And I think we're very much in the same place, because over the past 30 years we've been living off this sort of this very
not only have 300 million human beings died, but also the planet has doubled in its population, which just doubles the murder daily and everything. And like imagine if a world war happens now. The casualties. Considering the population, considering the planetary culture that is going on because of the internet, because of everything, and the geopolitical instability.
What was the Einstein quote? I don't know what weapons World War III will be fought with, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones.
Yeah, you had that quote recently.
I had it on Facebook page. I want to try and find the picture for it, because it was a really good picture. It was sort of the evolution of humans up to the point that they have guns, and then a bomb drops, and then they're back as monkeys.
Yeah.
But I see us very much being in that position now, because if you look at Greece, what are the two main political parties in Greece at the moment? You have Syriza, the Communist Party, and Golden Dawn, the Nazi Party. These are the two most popular parties in Greece. The Nazi Party is at like 30% approval rating. Like, what the fuck? That's
wow.
It's let me find out what their rating, Golden Dawn's ratings are now. Oh no, that's the film. Golden Dawn Party.
I wonder how it is for Greek people to comprehend the antique literature, like for the modern Greek language in comparison to the old Greek.
I'd have to have someone who I actually have someone that I can have that conversation with. Quite interesting. There's a guy at my university who's Greek. He's only the only reason he's doing my course is to avoid military service. But which is firstly means that I love the
a lot of people do that in Russia too.
Yeah. So I didn't know that you guys had conscription. I would assume now just thinking about it, of course Russia has conscription military. It's not something I've thought about previously. But this guy is good. I'm definitely going to have him on for a chat on here, because he's a fascinating dude. He's African, so he speaks with an American accent. He's black. He comes to you and he goes, "Yeah, I'm from Greece." What? And his family are from the Seychelles. His parents from the Seychelles, and they moved to Greece. And he was born in Greece. And he's a fascinating dude. And I'm going to have him on to talk about, because he used to tell me when we're sort of like sharing
that's a product of good multiculturalism.
That's a product of integration more than anything else. But also he's a trap producer, so I'm gonna link you guys up so you can support some shit. Because he's a mad producer. Like, the music he makes is cray. But I've had conversations about him, and he was like, it's crazy when me and my boys used to go out and we just go and like sit on ancient ruins and get really stoned and just think about what the fuck people used to do. Like someone built this. People got together and built this stuff. And I know that he's read quite a lot.
I'm studying now how the ancient theater worked, and I've been reading Sophocles, Euripides, and Aeschylus. It's truly fascinating, because the ruins that you're talking about, the theaters, they had enough seats for 10 to 15,000 people.
How do you do this?
Dude, yeah, exactly. What? I was like, holy shit. Do you imagine? Like,
but the way with the amphitheaters,
and the drama, and the ancient drama, it all started from religion. It all started from Dionysian games.
Yes, and the way Dynasties sort of talked about, Dynasties considered religion to be drama, and that's where drama sort of I can't really say he considered it to be drama, because drama didn't exist, but he considered religion and drama to essentially be, or he considered drama to be the main purpose of religion, shall I say. That I think is the best way to articulate it. In that religion is essentially just a set of stories we enact about reality to make reality better for us. If you think about the way we act around fire,
the mythological perception of reality starts before humankind goes into the slavery formation, when when we develop. Let me Google Translate this word 1 second, because I don't know how it is.
That's cool.
Communal clan. Communal clan.
Okay, so tribe.
Yeah. So initially it's communal clan formation, and because of the fear of everything that's surrounding the human, he tries to he gives the forces of nature. He personifies. He personifies the forces of nature and allegorizes it, and so on. And as soon as it turns, like the communal clan turns into the slavery formation, the mythology and the culture, it starts to raise up to a more sophisticated level.
Yeah.
But then sooner or later, the slavery formation, it gets outdated. Or the better the structure and the culture of the nation, the worse it gets. And the Initian games, it's not games, but I don't know the right word in English, but basically the drama, it first started on when the Greeks, they would when they first experienced drinking wine, they would tell stories and wear masks and do all sorts of crazy things, and that's kind of how and it was Dionysian. 1 sec, I'll translate this word. Dionysian feasts or banquets, and that is what turned it into drama, which we know now, which influenced all of our culture.
Everything about it.
Everything. The theater of Shakespeare, and Shakespeare, he influenced movies and it's everything, literally.
Yeah,
it's fascinating.
It all comes back from that. But then there's a theory about, and I've just pulled this up on the screen for the live stream. It's an evolutionary. It's not an evolutionary psychology book, but it's an evolutionary physiological book, and it's called The Fruit, the Tree, and the Serpent. And so straight away that's a biblical reference, but it's about why human beings have such good eyesight. And basically the argument is that you can directly correlate the eyesight, the quality of the eyesight of apes to the amount of dangerous reptiles in their environment, the amount of fruits they need to consume in their environment, and then we used to live in trees, and so on and so forth. So there's an argument that some psychologists have made, evolutionary psychologists have made, that the stories that the fact of, or the substrate that is drama is an evolutionary thing within us, and it comes from our need to draw meaning and then create actions around that meaning. So a really easy way of explaining that would be fire. So the first time we saw fire, so imagine you don't have language yet, right? So you have no way of conceptualizing abstract concepts, and then all of a sudden you come across fire. That's terrifying. That's a terrifying thing. Not only has your environment changed, but your environment has changed. Let's say it came from lightning. It's changed violently, aggressively, and drastically, and you're in a state of absolute terror. And fire, if you get too close to it, hurts you. But it's also warming. So you're looking at this.
Yeah, so it's dualistic.
Yeah, you're looking at this thing, and you're going, I want to know how I can use this to benefit me, but I'm terrified of it. So you, in your mind, create a set of behaviors for you to enact, which is drama. You create a drama for you to enact around fire that makes fire useful and no longer dangerous. And so you can think of the action of building a fireplace or a hearth or whatever to put the fire in, or using certain sticks to make the fire, using certain woods, doing whatever you're doing. That's just a drama. That's just a set of behaviors you've created in your head that are going to allow you to manipulate the fire, or not even manipulate, allow just you to act around the fire to make the fire beneficial to you. And that's in essence where our religion comes from. It goes, we have this feeling. When we do this drama around that feeling, it becomes enhanced, and so then that pulls right through to the drama of today. And just one more thing before you get into just on the subject of this book is I believe she talks about back when human beings were like lemur type creatures, and snakes were our primary predators, and a human, well, not a human, but one of these
so that's where
evolutionary
the snake
ancestral.
symbolism comes from.
That's exactly where it comes from, and it's also where the hero symbol of the hero killing the serpent or killing the dragon. That's where that comes from. Because if a female is being threatened by a snake and a male kills that snake with a big stick, then that male is more likely to mate with that female, or that female's more likely to allow that male to mate with her. And so his genes then go on. So we have a religious substructure in lemurs, and again, you'd have to the book's on the screen so people can find the book themselves. That makes the argument. That
send me the link.
It's motherfucker. Watch the stream afterwards and get the link.
Lynn Isabel.
Yes, you can see it. Yeah. It's called Why We See So Well: The Fruit, the Tree, and the Serpent. And so, in essence, it's sort of saying this symbolism of the male killing this reptilian creature to protect the virgin is the most ancient archetype. Now, what is that? That's St. George and the Dragon. Now, what else is that? That's Harry fucking Potter. The basilisk. He descends into the underworld to kill the serpent and free Virginia, the virgin. Right? Virginia. Take of it what you will, my friends. Take of it what you will. But these things are so heavily drenched in our psyche that we have a desire for this drama to unfold.
Yeah.
We have a desire for these spiritual concepts, and it's when you have a culture that doesn't allow you to use the language, because when we threw religion out, we threw religious language out with it, and that's what I have a lot of respect for Sam Harris and what he does with his sort of thing of spirituality should be an atheist word, but then again, I think he's coming at it a bit too rationally. But anyway, let's slide a bit further into geopolitics, shall we?
Should we?
Yeah. How dangerous could this get? Right, you are currently in. You're in Odessa currently still.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's going on in Odessa? What's the situation there? Are you what's the situation with Ukraine? Tell me about Ukraine generally, and then talk about Odessa a little bit.
Well, the situation in Ukraine, to be honest, I'm not that keen on internal politics of Ukraine. But nevertheless, I know people, I talk to people, and I see what's going on.
I know people.
And not much has changed. Not much has changed. People are poor. People are broke, not poor.
Mm-hmm.
And like recently, I was talking to a girl, and she has a family. She's 15,
mm-hmm.
and she has a family, and she's the only one working and feeding the family. And there's a lot of, and that's probably not even the worst story.
Yeah.
I mean, there's quite a few people with that kind of poverty. Like the average salary is what's the pound to hryvnia currency? It's 32. Right, the average salary here in a month is around 120 pounds.
Fucking hell, man. And is that
obviously prices are different.
Yeah, that's
like
what I was
the
gonna
rent
say.
is
That
much cheaper.
Yeah, that's related. Okay, yeah.
Rent is much cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
But nevertheless, that's like food and everything
still in comparison
is pretty
to
much
the cost
the
of
same.
living, it's quite low.
Yeah, it's very low. It's only enough for food, basically.
Shit, man. So in terms of
that's how people live, and the political situation where, well, Ukraine is a pretty. If Russia
is it still a country? This is what I want to know.
world.
Is Ukraine still a country?
Yeah, it is.
It's still a sovereign state.
Sorry?
It's still a sovereign state. It still holds itself together as a country.
Yeah, it does. It does. There's like weird things happen, but I'm not sure if that happens in all of Ukraine. But I think it's more in Odessa because Odessa is sometimes it's like really weird, just strange shit happens.
Oh, I know.
Like,
I'm gonna get you to talk about that in a second. But I love Odessa. But so because.
But yeah, Ukraine is still.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people in the West sort of think that Ukraine is essentially half Russia and then half just anarchy. That's the sort of view that we have.
Nah, it's not that bad. Not nearly as bad as that. It's just really poor. It's just a really poor country and with a low level of education and low level of culture.
Yeah, well, they need to check their white privilege, and fuck. But yeah, the fucking European males, they fucking run the world. Why are they poor then? But okay, so let's talk about Odessa a bit because I fucking love Odessa. So the last time we spoke about Odessa, I recall you saying something along the lines of it's basically independent of the Ukraine. For intents and purposes.
It's not independent on the economical or constitutional.
Yeah. Like Ukraine wouldn't recognize it as an independent place.
It's independent. It's independent on the cultural.
Yes. Yeah.
Because Odessa was initially a Russian city, and it was if St. Petersburg is well, we say in Russian Северная Пальмира, that would be in English Palmyra.
Okay.
I don't know if there's a word in English. Do you have a word in English that... Do you know such word?
I don't know the word, no.
Let me Google.
Like, cause St. Petersburg was supposed to be the Western capital under Tsar Nicholas, wasn't
it? Yeah, St. Petersburg is... But not that. Well... we say that St. Petersburg is the North Palmyra, but Odessa is the South Palmyra.
Okay, what is
Palmyra? Was a city. Now I googled it. I didn't even know this, man. It was a city. It was an ancient Semitic city.
Semitic city. Ooh.
Yeah, and it has there were Romans there, Byzantines, or. Persians. Anyway, but so Odessa, like a lot of the intellectuals in Russia, like Pushkin, Gogol.
Yeah.
Who else? Bunin or Bunin.
Well, Gogol was Gogol was a Ukrainian, wasn't he?
He was Ukrainian, but he didn't write in Ukrainian that much. He was more Russian, and he lived in Russia.
What I heard about him was that he took the Ukrainian culture, converted it into Russian language, and then snuck it into mainstream Russian culture. That's basically what I heard about. Yeah, what I heard about Gogol. Yeah, cool guy.
Yeah, kind of.
But yeah, so.
Well, don't forget that.
Because I'm looking on the map.
Kiev was.
Yeah. Go.
Kiev was the capital of Rus, which is former Russia until the first part of the 16th century.
Yeah.
And then Moscow became the capital. So it was and the language was unified. It was old Slavian language.
Yeah, it was a priest, and they didn't have an alphabet, so he mixed the Latin and the Cyrillic alphabet together to create.
Yeah, sort of.
Because when I was talking to Jamal, this is my Greek friend, because he speaks Greek, he was saying that he actually finds it very difficult to look at any Slavic languages that use Cyrillic because they pronounce them completely differently. They use the letters completely differently to how the Greeks use them. And so I was like, well, it must be very easy for you to learn some Slavic language. I was like, no, man, they fuck shit up. But I'm looking on Google Maps right now, and obviously, like, Odessa is South Ukraine, and St. Petersburg is more up towards Belarus. So how, yeah. Explain this. What was this place that began with P? I've forgotten it already.
Palmyra.
Palmyra. I'm gonna Google that now.
It's a
it
poetical
says it's a
way
municipality in Spain.
Naming.
I googled Palmyra.
Naming the cities.
I googled Palmyra, and it said it's a municipality in a municipality in Spain.
Well, Google North Palmyra or South Palmyra. Maybe you'll get something.
I don't
but yeah,
know,
it's more of a Russian thing. Nevertheless.
Yeah, I don't think we have it in
fuck
English.
that.
Yeah.
That's up until like 19th, the first part of 20th century. It was.
Okay, but just to confirm,
this
place was basically a country.
It was a cultural city. It had its opera, and it had like loads of writers going in and out and doing all sorts of things. So it has a literary museum. It has which isn't too bad, and there are literary festivals now that go on usually in that museum. Well, it's not the only place, but most of the writers, they read their works and talk in that museum. And then there's the Museum of Arts where they have paintings of Nikolai Rerich and Vrubel and Ivazovsky and some other artists, not so well known. But nevertheless, and then there's the Western and then there's the Museum of Western and Eastern Arts. That's how it's called, and it's got a bit of everything, kind of eclectic. So in general, for a city that has 1,200,000 population, it's not too bad. It's not too bad in terms of what is left of the culture that it once had. That's how I'll put it. But the majority of people in this city are uneducated, and they speak a very broken, very insipid Russian language. Some of them don't even like. I mean, Odessa was always a city where people spoke Russian.
Yeah.
But some people come from small towns or cities where people speak Ukrainian, or simply because of the recent political changes, some people like go on full Ukrainian mode and only speak Ukrainian just because I want to, just because I can, which I found quite annoying sometimes, because the person knows that I know only Russian and I have difficulty understanding Ukrainian, but nevertheless he would speak Ukrainian, like in Ukrainian with me. So
this is just hilarious, because I've just pulled up Odessa on Google Maps so people can see where it is, and I've just noticed that Crimea, on a border in between Ukraine and Crimea, and made it part of Russia on Google Maps.
Seriously?
Yes, it's beautiful.
I'm gonna have a look.
It's on the stream right now, bro. That's hilarious. But okay, so tell me about the Prime Minister of Odessa.
Sorry?
Tell me about your is it the mayor? Batman.
You mean Saakashvili?
The dude with the Batman car.
Oh, Darth Vader.
Yeah. Tell me about him. Talk about him.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't heard of him. Since the election. So it's only been then that he was like doing all this stuff.
Give people the sort of backstory to who this guy is.
Well, when the election was happening a year ago in Odessa, there was one of the candidates was Darth Vader. Literally, he was he had a car with his white troops. I forgot how they're called. Stormtroops, right?
Yeah.
And he was in his costume, being Darth Vader, and he was roaming around the city with posters and everything, and his big car, and with the Star Wars aesthetics. Had the Star Wars theme song going around, like
the internet
really
party.
loud.
The internet party they were called.
Yeah, I seen him twice, and it was like, it was quite fascinating.
And they replaced the statue of Lenin with Darth Vader.
He would just move through the streets, and everybody would be just looking like, what the fuck is going on?
They replaced the statue of Lenin with Darth Vader.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
beautiful.
Exactly. That is, and yeah, as soon as that happened, I went to see the statue with a friend, and the statue's not too bad.
It kind of, I'm looking at its face right now, and it kind of looks like Lenin.
Yeah, kind of.
Somehow they managed to make Darth Vader's face look like Lenin. I love it. I love it. Oh my god. It looks like Lenin. It's beautiful. Sorry, anyway, I'm getting carried away. Lenin, Darth Vader. So yeah, so the dude ran. Did they win? What happened?
No, they didn't. He didn't win. It was just, I don't know. As I said, I'm not really into it. All of it, I just.
Too much. Okay, so how do you sort of see the relationship between the more culturally Russian areas of the Ukraine right now and Russia?
Well, between the intellectuals, like, intellectuals don't give a shit about all the geopolitical stuff that's going on and conflicts of that matter, because they know it's all bullshit.
Yeah, they are safe in the stadium.
Yeah, they're safe in the stadium. But I don't know. It's hard to say. Like some people here, like they masturbate on Russia and on Putin and everything related to that. Others they despise it, but still they speak Russian, so whatever. Others are neutral. So it's in Odessa specifically, it's pretty mixed because it was always a mixed city. It was always because it has the port and it's near Turkey. There's a lot of Turkish people. There was a lot of Greek people. There was a lot of Jewish people in Odessa, and well, now it's not that mixed, but even so, like whenever I would go to the center, the Rybasovskaya street, I'd always hear someone speak like foreign languages.
No, so there's not like big nationalist movements.
No, not at all.
Reunite the USSR. Well, no, it's just very interesting because this is what we're seeing all throughout Europe in response to the EU. I don't know, it could go either way. It's a very, like with Brexit.
Brexit is, wow. Yeah.
It can go either way, and I don't know. I'm optimistic for it. You know, I think that it's a very sad situation because I think that if certain economic decisions were made, like for example the legalization and deregulation of cannabis, the UK could become one of the biggest economies in the world. It would just shoot off, but that's not going to happen. We know that's not going to happen. So,
you think it's not going to happen?
I don't know. Just because of the nature of the
people of our generation are becoming older. Soon, most of them will finish their education. Soon, some of them will get into the political parties. Give it 5 or 10 years, and then you should.
But that's actually something else that I'm quite worried about. These are all people.
You're worried about that? Yeah, because it's quite mixed as well.
Yeah, they've been through these universities. They've been taught to think certain things, predicated by certain people. And I think that's going to really fuck up our politics. I think that's really going to. I think they're going to be highly educated in certain things and astonishingly ignorant on more important things. And it's the more important things that will lead us to fascism. Because and that's the worry. That's the terror. That's what we have right now. And I think we have a very.
You have the worry and the terror.
I have the worry and the terror of fascism. I have the worry and the terror of fascism. I'm very, very worried.
For real?
Yeah.
For real? In England?
Yeah. Well, I'm speaking more globally now than specifically for Britain. But I think just because, especially because
what will be like fascism has a specific
definition, yeah.
Group of people that they hate and that they despise. What group of people would that be? Would that be immigrants or
I globalists?
Globalists.
Yeah, that's what. But this is why it's become such a difficult thing, because things have become so blurred and so ill-defined that you know about
it's the postmodern society.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
You can't really define anything. Everything
precisely.
is so
but
mixed up.
you know Stormfront, the website Stormfront. Do you know the website Stormfront? It's like a white supremacist website, like a white nationalist website. Basically, so do you know about the alt-right and everything that's been happening with the alternative right? Yes, no?
No.
No, okay. So basically, the alternative right was basically sort of the younger the younger generation who were wanting to be more culturally conservative, but had no real cultural conservatives to talk to, so they kind of had to do it all themselves. As far as I can understand it, I'm not part of the alt-right, so I don't really know too heavily, but I have quite a good understanding, I feel, because I know people in the alt-right, I talk to a lot of them, and a lot of them have gone so far, they find it very hard to draw the distinction between culture and race, and they find it very hard to draw the distinction between nationalism and ethnicities, and it's very... Everything has become, because, I'll tell you about it, right? The easiest way for me to break this down is that the political left over the past 10 years has been attacking everything mildly Eurocentric, shall we say? Anything mildly classically European has been attacked as being colonial and racist and white privileged and Islamophobic and all these things. And that has sort of pushed all these different people with different beliefs into the same category. And so that category is now trying to define itself, and what's coming out of that in some aspects is ethnic fascism. And if you go on Stormfront, you'll have people who are advocating National Socialism. So that's not Nazism, they're advocating Nazism. They say National Socialism, and they're very logically cohesive in what they're saying, and they have a lot of people supporting them. And it's quite ironic that I think that the left has sort of put itself in this position by calling people racists, and people who aren't racist but actually have valid issues they want to discuss that somehow revolve around immigration and the sort of changing ethnic face and ethnic of their society and racial and ethnic tensions. People who have genuine concerns about this, that want to discuss them openly, sort of get shouted at and shouted down and silenced. Then the only people who are left to actually talk about that are the people who are okay with being called racists. And they are the actual racists. And there's this sort of comical thing of someone says, well, I think we have a slight issue.
It's all reversed.
Yeah, people go, I think we have an issue with Islamic immigration. You're racist, you need to shut up and go, oh, okay, well, I don't want people to think I'm a racist, so I'll stop talking. Whereas if someone was really a racist and they said, well, I don't want black people in this country, and you go, oh, you're racist, they'll go, well, yeah, white people are superior. Obviously. That's what they think, that's their identity. They don't mind being called that, they don't mind being branded that. And I think the left has gone so far into this sort of political correctness, this sort of social justice, this sort of... It's Orwellian, really, is the best way to describe it. It's this sort of Orwellian, we need to control your thoughts, we need to control your behaviours, you can only say certain things, you can only think certain things. That it's pushed so many people into this... Like, okay, so before the election... libertarians, conservatives, classical liberals, most of the younger generation all defined themselves as alt-right. After the election, the alt-right made it very clear that it was that they're white supremacists, and that they wouldn't even say they're white supremacists. They say they're white nationalists. They don't want white people to be superior. They just want white people to have their own country. That's their argument. It's like, what do you mean by that? What do you mean? Are Armenians white? Is that what the fuck are you talking about? But I'm gonna pull up Stormfront National Socialism so we can see this. But so a lot of people who aren't being allowed to talk about their actual beliefs that are trying politically and that are trying to orient themselves within the world, finding themselves in this area of thought, and then they become too scared to talk about it. And it's almost like Islamic radicalization, where a young Muslim who is becoming more and more radicalized becomes and less willing to talk about their beliefs in public, right? They're less and less willing to debate their beliefs. They're less and less willing to entertain conversations with people who have opposing opinions, because they're most likely going to be met with sort of disdain and I'm not going to say hatred. It's not a hatred, but it's mockery. That's the best word for it. You'd be mocked. So if someone came to you as a literal Christian and they said, I believe that the earth is only 4,000 years old, and I believe angels are real, and God is a naked dude in the sky, you're just going to laugh at them. What the fuck is wrong with you, you idiot? And that's not going to make them realize that they're wrong. That's just going to make them realize that make them think that you hate them and that they're being oppressed by you. And then once they have that feeling of oppression, they are justified in any means to relieve themselves of that oppression. And that's Marxism. Because it's this sort of concept of people get divided into groups, and then those groups get defined as oppressor and oppressed, and then the oppressed are allowed to be violent towards the oppressors to cease their oppression. But the problem with that is that you can argue anyone is oppressed by anything at any time.
Yeah,
I'm being oppressed by gravity.
We have something similar going on in Russia. It happened.
So please talk about that, because everyone who speaks English who watches this is going to know about what's going on in the West. But tell us about Russia.
Yeah, I think it was 4 years ago. Yeah, it was 4 years ago when in the Russian constitution, Putin introduced. No, not Putin. Someone else in the Duma.
Was it Yeltsin? Or no, it was part of. Yeah, it was part of.
No, Yeltsin was before. It was 4 years ago. So he introduced whoever did that introduced a new law that stated. Let me translate it. So I'll sound it. I'll say it properly in English. The law of insult of the feelings of believers. Well, that's how it says in Google Translate. Well, people of faith, people of religion. Basically, it states that whoever insults the feelings of of such people of faith can get sanctioned, arrested, or whatever else. Well, I don't remember specifically how it's judged and how much you would be charged, or in what cases you'd get arrested. But I do remember that if you a play on a classical I think an opera on some book, I don't remember which one, was put down because it insulted the feelings of some religious people, and a few other cases, like a few heavy metal concerts were cancelled because of that, because some people felt that it insulted their feelings.
My feels. My feels. Shut up.
Yeah, so that's what happened 4 years ago, and it's and that law is still active. It still works, and
so
people
you
can still.
You have blasphemy laws in Russia right now. That's essentially a blasphemy law. You can't speak ill of religion. God damn it, man. They made misogyny a hate crime in Nottingham, so you're not allowed to make sexist jokes. And this is what I mean. This sort of comes from a place within human thought that essentially is kind. You know, it speaks to the kindness. You don't want to hurt other people's feelings. You know, you want them. You want people to be able to live their lives in happiness and not be oppressed. And So we put laws in place that prevent this, and this sounds like a good idea. You know, this is just human rights. This is all it is. It's human rights. How can you be against human rights? You know, but no, you do not have the right to not be offended. You do not have the right to not have your feelings hurt. The universe owes you fuck all. Who are you to think that the universe owes you a happy experience? Entitled twat. Doesn't work like that. But it's interesting that you guys actually had that happen in Russia, because, you know, it's the same thing that's been happening in the West. But it's strangely enough, you guys have been having it happen around religion. We only have it happen around Islam in the West, really. You can't insult Islam, you can insult Christianity.
Well, see, the religious situation in Russia is a bit different.
Yeah, you guys
we have Orthodox extremists now, which is a quite interesting...
Just out of curiosity, is Russian a secular state, or is it...
No, it's not a secular state, but it's trying to become one.
But so in the law, it has the joining of the church and the state. Not like joining as in they are one, but the Russian Orthodox Church has special whatever is specially recognized by the government as the religion of Russia.
No, it's actually it is a secular state.
Okay, yeah.
Before it wasn't, until I think until Nikon, it was a patriarch of the Russian.
Yeah, because it was the Tsar. The Tsar was the head of the Russian church, right? And then Lenin and the Bolsheviks came along, and then Stalin was the god emperor.
Yeah, so now it's secular, but it's trying not to be.
Okay, so it's trying to return to the situation of.
Yeah, it's trying to
of religiosity.
Reintegrate.
Oh, so is this what your Orthodox extremists are doing? They're trying to reunify the church and the state?
Yeah, they're trying to bring back the values of the Orthodox religion and church. But they're doing it in the wrong direction.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have really anything against Christianity like that much, as long as it's intellectual.
Yes.
Christianity, as long as it's like the proper deal, not the
literalists.
Yeah, not like the average
Satan possessed my
Christians
child.
that don't even read the Bible like that. That's just pathetic.
You can't marry another man, but I can eat shellfish and wear men's cloth.
Yeah, like Jesus wasn't dogmatic.
Yeah.
In his approach, in general, he wasn't ignorant. Like, I mean, it's pretty obvious that.
Well, the Judeo-Christian values are the best values in the world right now. The Judeo-Christian values gave us these concepts of tolerance, of acceptance.
Yeah. They gave us a lot, and we have to acknowledge that. We shouldn't be ignorant atheists and scientists. Well, that despise it simply because we think that science and a godless approach in terms of ethics and cultural values is the only way to see it, and because through rationalization of everything we can understand how society works and how the world works. So I think.
And the Russians of all people would know this.
Can't be done. We can't live without religion. Religion is the opium of mankind.
Yeah.
Who said that? I don't remember.
that was Karl Marx. Yeah. But this is the thing: is religion is the opiate of the masses. But no, because this is my quote. This is my quote that I built on top of that, and I love it. It goes. Religion is the opiate of the masses, but Marxism is the Zyklon B of the masses.
Zyklon B, what is that?
That's the gas that the Nazis used to kill all the Jews.
Oh.
So yes, religion may be the opium of the masses, but Marxism is the Zyklon B. So yeah, no, I think this is kind of why I wanted to start this Alredia thing as a platform, is because I just like I said, I hadn't finished, well, I hadn't even really started reading Glass Beads or the Glass Bead game, but from what understand about Castalia, I would very much like Alredia to become sort of an internet version of Castalia. That's like sort of my ideal for it. I want to have.
With internet, we've got, we have really a lot of opportunities now. We can do many things that we can do before that. I mean, if I didn't have the internet, I would be forced to study somewhere, obviously. But now, I just use the internet to listen to lectures, to download literature that I need to. I even use dictionaries and basically everything that goes into that revolves my education of humanitarian sciences and disciplines. So it's pretty amazing. It's an amazing thing, and I'm very happy that it happened.
Yeah, but exactly. But we have just this issue at the moment of not having really a Castalia within that to sort of say this because there's so much floating around, and that's what my ideal situation for Alredia is. I want it to be like a main. A single place that itself divides into different sort of disciplines. I wouldn't even call them disciplines, but and so ideally I'd like to have blogs that would be like Alredia Liberal, Alredia Conservative, Alredia Libertarian, Alredia Anarchist, Alredia Anarchism is wrong.
maybe you should call it Castalia.
I should call it Castalia.
Yes, so they like Google Castalia and holy shit.
That would be awesome. But I wonder if the name Castalia has been copyrighted or anything. Alredia, I got the name of Alredia from an ancient Gaelic kingdom that was called Dalredia, and that existed. It was half in Ireland and half in Scotland.
Dude, I just typed in Castalia.com and there's no domain.
There's no domain. Oh.
Yeah. Great.
This could be very good. I like this. I like this Castalia village. Okay, cool. We could use this. But this is what I mean. Is ideally I want to have loads of people who are intellectuals, who are heavily. Who are the masters of their. I don't want to say them specifically the masters of their fields, but are very close to being. Who are very well entrenched in their fields.
Basically, people
arguing with each other.
That want to achieve. That want to be professionals in their intellectual fields, and that could discuss with people that have similar values.
But even people with opposing values. But this is what I mean. Is that's why I would love to have this sort of, well, in this example, it would be Castalia Liberal, Castalia Conservative, and just have two guys on there arguing with each other all the time, just posting contradictory articles, and that would be amazing. And then you'd have your science disciplines, and you'd have your arts, you'd have music. I want it to be a music platform as well. And then I want mathematicians to then go and analyze the music and do stuff to it. And this was all things I was thinking about before I even knew about the Glass Bead game. And so I'm thoroughly convinced that I am the latest reincarnation of Hermann Hesse. Yes, that's my that's what I've taken from this. But no, so that's the sort of
or Plato. You know that the Glass Bead game was heavily influenced by Plato's government.
Yeah, Plato's Republic. Yeah. Which would be amazing if it worked. All these amazing people. And this is what I mean. It's very interesting because when you actually start to get down to the core of this sort of train of thought, you realize that okay, so yes, the Glass Bead game is sort of an elitist book. And would you describe it as that, sort of an intellectual elitist book?
It's well, the fabula of the. Do you know what I mean by when I say fabula?
That's the sort of the constituents of the people there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, of the novel. Of the
novel, yes, sorry.
The fabula of the novel is elitist, is intellectual, but the language isn't. The language is quite simple. Hesse, in all of his works, he maintains a simple, but literary language.
So from
time to time, he'll have some words that you don't know, or literary words, but more or less it's quite easily comprehensible.
But he was.
He's not too complex.
But the novel in itself, so the sort of the concept behind the novel in itself, and I think was the view that
that's true.
Is one of intellectual elitism. But I think it's very important to draw a distinction between sort of hereditary elitism, where you would sort of have this class whereby if you were a king, then your son is going to become the next king. I think that the sort of elitism that Hess was pushing was that there is an elite class, but it's a fluid class, and anyone who is born into any other class can become part of the elite class.
Exactly.
But the elite class is a specific thing, and it is defined as being this, and it is protected from its own destruction. Anyone can enter it if they have the ability to. But yeah, it is still an elitist thing, and I think that is I think that is a truth about the world. I think that you do kind of need to have.
There's fundamental truth
it's
about how this world works.
Yeah, you have to have your elites to pull society up from the top, but you need to also not prevent those elites from getting there, which I think is the sort of the issue with hereditary elitism, is that you prevent the real elites from getting into the positions they need to be. But just running back, because I realised I still have the National Socialism thing on Stormfront loaded up. So I don't know if you're watching the stream, or because I'm just going to read this to you now.
No, I'm not.
But so basically, I'm just going to break it down. Firstly, it's got a picture of Hitler done in that sort of the artwork that the Obama's thing was done. You know, the hope thing for Obama. Yeah, they've got a picture of Hitler and it says "Yes, we can" at the bottom, and it's done with that sort of that style. Like, fucking hell, man. There's the level this has got to. But it basically says this. It goes, "What is National Socialism for newcomers? What is National Socialism? National Socialism is a philosophy or worldview for white people that is based on three principles." Wait, it gets better. Principle number 1, natural order. We believe that the universe is governed by natural laws, and in order for man to be happy and successful, he must first learn what these laws are and follow them. We believe that man is part of the natural world and that he is in no way separate or distinct from it. Consequently, we believe that society should be structured in accordance with the laws of nature and not in opposition to them. Under National Socialism, every aspect of society would be in accord with natural order. The way we structure the government, the way we raise our children, the way we plan our cities, the way we grow our food, everything. Indeed, in this context, National Socialism is the original green movement. So you see the way that they're presenting this to people. They're taking people who are sort of your alternative, would-be anarchists, would-be libertarian type people, and they're going, look, what you really want is ethnic fascism. That's what you really want, because ethnic fascism is the way that we're going to make your things happen, the ideals that you want happen. And then the second point is racial idealism. So and this is what it says. It says, racial idealism is based on the love of your own people. It means placing the welfare and interests of the racial community to which you belong ahead of your own personal interests and desires. As racial idealists, we have no wish to harm, persecute, control, or exploit other racial groups. We are only interested in protecting our own people. We believe that all men are not created equal, just as every individual has its own personal strengths and weaknesses, so does every race have certain qualities that make it different to other races. We believe that the white or Aryan race has the right to maintain its biological, cultural, and political independence. Blah, 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 blah. And then the last one is the upward development of the white race. So that's, and then it just gets into that sort of nonsense. But you see how it presents itself as a logically coherent and consistent argument for its belief. And if you're someone who has come from a university that has taught you Marxism, and identity politics, which is really what Marxism is, it's really identity politics, that teach you are part of this group and you need to develop your group's rights, you need to protect your group, you need to put the needs of your group ahead of your own. And again, you can look at that in the way Marxism was predicated in Russia, in the proletariats and the bourgeoisie. You can look at it as how it was predicated in America as a racial issue of whites versus everybody else, apparently. And if you are a poor white person who has gone to university, has been with a bunch of that's gone to an extremely ethnically diverse university, and you found out that every other person is acting as a member of a group and receiving benefits as a member of a group, but you're not, then when you come across these ideas, they're going to be very, very appealing to you. And when you're looking to construct a new society, you see where this is going. You see why this worries me very much. This I'm in fear of this. I am very worried about this. Yeah. That's
This exists in the open web, not in the dark web.
This exists in the open web. This is Stormfront. I call them the Storm Fags. Basically, we have the social justice warriors.
How are they not banned?
Because of the way they presented themselves. The West have put themselves in a position where they have protected the speech of oppressed classes, and these people the Storm Fags have very, very intelligently presented themselves as being an oppressed class, and that has allowed them to sort of predicate these things. Because if you read what's on here, the hatred that is on here is going to be no different than the hate. Well, there isn't really any hatred. Okay, so you have on here you have the open forums within which you will find blatant hatred of other races. Then you have your administrators and stuff like that who write what are considered to be the. I'm gonna sound like I know loads about this. I know fuck all about this. I just read the odd thing on here every now and again because I want to know what they're thinking. But so the way that the main sort of predicators of this thought present it, I mean that bit where there was number 2, racial idealism. We have as racial idealists, we have no intent to harm, persecute, control, or exploit other racial groups. So they're sort of specifically presenting themselves in a manner that we are oppressed, but we have no desire to oppress other people. We just want to do our own thing, and we've created a legal system and a culture in the West that kind of has to allow that. Because if we're going to allow Muslims to do that, then we have to allow these people to do that. If we're going to allow Black Lives Matter or whatever the Marxist to do that, we have to allow these people to do it as well. And these people are in the majority in most of these countries. So that's very dangerous. Very dangerous. And so this is one aspect that could go really wrong. The other aspect is the social justice warrior aspect, and that would be your classical sort of Marxist communist or Marxist Leninist theory, and that of the sort of you need to redistribute the wealth, you need to control society, you need to plan the economy, etc. And these are the two trains of thought that have arisen in the sort of the wake of the sort of cultural devolution that we're experiencing. The people who are grasping for culture, this is what they're grasping for. And typically, if they're poor and white, they're going to go for the storm flag ideology of becoming. I wouldn't even. I would struggle to call what is written on this. Just on this page of National Socialism, I would struggle to call this racist because it doesn't specifically say we hate this race and we want to go and attack it. It says we want to control our race, and so this is ethnic fascism. So you see what you were sort of saying as the fascists need to have another group to fight for them to be fascists. Well, with this group, it's with the alt-right and the rising. Sort of the storm fags and the neo-Nazis and whatnot. The other that they see is any threat to their culture. And if you sort of look at Nazi Germany, that's what Hitler was doing. That's what the Nazis were doing. They were saying, look, all the business owners are Jewish. All the people who own the schools are Jewish. All the landowners are Jewish. The government, they're all Jewish, and they're oppressing us as people. They're preventing our culture and our identity. So we're justified in our violence against them. Is exactly the same argument that was given to the proletariat and the workers of Russia to kill the bourgeoisie. Exactly the same thing. And so if you're poor and white, you're going to go for this ideology. If you're poor and not white, you're going to go for the Marxist-Leninist ideology of we need to take wealth away from the rich white people and give it to us. So I'm scared of both of them, honestly. Because I think both of them, I think they cause each other, really. I think identity politics on the left causes identity politics on the right. I think they're two sides of the same coin. And if they continue to grow, then we're gonna have another genocide, and I don't want that to happen. I think that's gonna be a very horrible thing to live through. I mean, we know what Europeans do when they get all genocidal and that.
Yeah.
Does 300
it gets
million
worse
people,
and worse.
Yeah, 300 million people. It doesn't end well. Does not end well at all. So with Al Radio, what I really want to do is just to sort of create a platform where people can have alternative ideas to this. Yeah. So what would you give us your opinion about sort of this, what I've just given to you about the sort of
the oppressor and the oppressed.
A little bit about that, about the rise of sort of National Socialism and communism in Europe, how that relates to culture, and then I think we'll probably call it at that for the stream, because we're on 2 hours now. Yeah.
Well,
so yeah.
Have you heard of the writer Umberto Eco? Umberto Eco, Italian writer, culturologist, philosopher.
Is it Alberto?
Umberto. I'll write it to you in
Umberto Eco, okay, I found him. I haven't heard him, no, but I'm pulling him up on Google.
Well, he has a particularly interesting essay, which is called Middle Ages Have Begun. I'm not sure if that's how it's literally called. I read it in Russian.
I found it. The article, I found the article on YouTube.
Oh, he has studied the Middle Ages. Like that's his speciality in his university. He has studied the medieval times and the medieval aesthetics very deeply. So he has an essay where he discusses whether we have yet again gone into the Middle Ages, and what I see here, what you have shown, it's very similar to what was going on in the Roman Empire with all of the multiculturalism. It was on a lower level, obviously, because we didn't have the internet, we didn't have such sophisticated. They didn't have the internet, they didn't have such sophisticated culture and industry and technology and everything. But pretty much, in terms of on the spiritual and ideological level, it's pretty much the same thing. Yeah. And as you know, in sociology, like every government, every nation, it has its birth, golden age, then stagnation and sort of death. Well, pseudo-death, because the death is usually marked when the language becomes sort of dead, and there comes a new language. Like in the Roman Empire it was Latin, and then there's no more Latin, and there's Italian. Like in Greek there was Old Greek, and now there's New Greek, and etc. So what we're seeing now is pretty much the same thing, exactly the same thing, but on a somewhat global level. Somewhat global because it's more Western European. I'm not quite sure how Asia fits in to all of this shit, but it'll probably find a reason to go into war as well. I think that war is inevitable because there's too many human beings, we kill too many animals to merely survive, and we have loads of other issues, and the ecological crisis as well is an interesting thing, because I don't exactly believe in the global warming, but the level of ecology that is in the cities, and
I think I can sum this up very quickly because I have the same interesting thought.
So basically,
human beings cannot
let me
warm
sum
the
it up.
planet.
Let me sum it up. The way I see it is that war is inevitable, and what the main purpose of every intellectual at this point of time is to find a way to preserve all of the knowledge that we have obtained so far throughout from antique to Middle Ages to modern days.
Yes.
All of this knowledge must be preserved so that after the war, humankind would be able to recover. That's the way I see it. Yeah, that's what I think.
Awesome. I'm just gonna quickly sum up the global warming. That's what I was gonna say. So I don't think either of us believe that human beings actually have the ability to heat the Earth up to a point that it's going to destroy itself. That's a very silly concept, and I think it's being used to just put taxations and limitations on small-scale businesses. But that's not to say that what human beings are doing does not impact the environment in an incredibly detrimental way. We have wiped out nearly 70% of the species on the planet in the past 100 years. We are poisoning our air, we're poisoning our water, we're doing all these things. However, that is not synonymous with carbon dioxide, which is a fucking plant food. That's not synonymous with carbon dioxide heating our Earth up. That's different. They're different things. And that's why they use climate change instead of global warming now. Because we know global warming we know that doesn't exist. We know that's not real. Climate change is very much real. We change the climate. And this I think I'll say this, and I think we'll leave it on these two quotes. I'll give you the last word because you're so amazing. But I'll just say that all ecological arguments are not arguments to save the planet, and they should not be made as arguments to save the planet. Because we human beings can't kill the planet. We can't destroy the planet. That's fucking idiotic. What we can do is destroy. No, couldn't do it. We could not destroy the planet with atomic bombs. You could not do it. Impossible. The Earth has survived the asteroid impact that killed the dinosaurs was the equivalent of something like a couple 100,000 nuclear bombs. It was the equivalent of that. That didn't destroy the Earth. We can't destroy the Earth. What we can do is we can destroy the habitat we require to live, and we can destroy the habitat other animals require to live. And if we do that, we will all die. We won't kill life. I don't think we can kill life, just because of the fact that there are bacteria living on rocks in space as we speak. I think life will always survive, I think. And I don't think we can destroy the planet. I think that's an impossibility. I think what we can do is destroy our habitat. We can make our air unbreathable to us. We can make our water undrinkable to us. We can make the soil uninhabitable to us. That doesn't mean it will be uninhabitable for all life. But the argument is not to save the planet. The argument is to save human life. Is to save the human environment. That's what the argument should be. So I'm going to give you the last little word, and then I think we'll call it there.
Oh, I agree. I mean, you've said it all, pretty much, and I've summed up what I said. So.
So I think that's very good, and I think we'll leave it there, and we'll most definitely come back to talk about more specific things later on in our event. So happy times, people, and be blessed in that.